All right, this video is going to be a little bit different and hopefully a fun one. I'm going to talk about some of the strangest gigs I have ever had, and boy, are there plenty. So, as I have explained in previous videos, I have been a jazz musician professionally for about 10 years, and I've played hundreds of gigs. And so there is bound to be something in there that's sort of off kilter, and so I've compiled a list of a few of the strangest and just weird gigs, and hopefully you enjoy this and stay tuned for the last one, because the last one is absolutely wild. So for this first one, I was on a gig with the late Arlen Asher, and he was an absolute legend. There have been awards in his name, and he's just an absolute legend. And so he was a multi-instrumentalist, and so I was lucky enough to play several gigs with him, actually. And so on one of these occasions, we had a top call rhythm section, really, really great rhythm section, backing him up, and I was in that rhythm section. And so at the venue, before the gig starts, they warn us we're going to test the fire alarms. And they didn't tell us when they were going to test the fire alarms, but you know that they were going to do that. And so at some point during our set, I think it was towards the end of our set, the fire alarm goes off. And I am, pretty conscious and careful, and so I, even knowing this is just a test of the fire alarm, I'm, like being careful and starting to pack up my gear and sort of head out of the building, right? And the bassist starts walking in the key of the fire alarm. And so he's and it's just swinging so hard, and he's in onto the rhythm of the fire alarm, and Arlen Asher's he's just going absolutely nuts, and and then the fire alarm goes off, and then they start playing a blues in the key of the fire alarm. And by that point, I knew it was just a test, and so then I joined in with them. Anyway, so that was pretty great, and something that I will always remember. This next one, I think, has probably happened to all of us. So I was on a gig once, and it was at this big event, and we had this big stage. And I didn't bring a keyboard, and because I was told there was going to be this keyboard already there for me. And it was this big, huge Korg. I can't remember what model it was. It was pretty old. And for the life of me, I could not figure out how to change the sounds. And so I, tried turning it off and on again. It would just be at this sound, and it was a synth pad. And so it was like a big, like, swell synth pad. It was absolutely insane. And so I had to play this whole jazz gig, and we were playing swing tunes and Latin tunes and all that, and I had to use for the entire gig a synth pad sound because I could not figure out how to change the sound on this keyboard. It was ridiculous. And I somehow made it work, and the gig went really well. But I'm sure that's happened to all of us, and if it hasn't, it definitely will. So just be prepared for something like that, but that is also something pretty memorable. This next one happened actually fairly recently, just last year. So this was at a house party, and we had a bass player and a drummer, and so it was a trio. And out of nowhere, it starts pouring rain, just like sheets of rain, and just an absolute downpour of rain. And so we're playing outside on this patio at this house party, and I have my keyboard, and the keyboard gets absolutely soaked. And I was debating whether or not I should call the insurance. It's like, this keyboard's a loss. I need a new keyboard. And it turned out the keyboard was not damaged, thankfully, but just an absolute downpour, and we were not under any sort of cover. We were out in the open. So unexpected rainstorms, always something you got to be a little bit careful about. Now, this next one isn't weird as much as it is just absolutely amazing. So this comes out of San Diego, California. I did several gigs out there. And so it was all local San Diego musicians, and I was the visiting person, and I was playing piano. And it was a really, really great rhythm section. We had a great bass player and a drummer, and I remember I was playing this nice Steinway Model B. It was all really great. And so we had this singer, and the singer, we just did a normal, set of tunes. And in the middle of this blues, it was like a slow, like heavy shuffle blues. In the middle of this tune, she starts singing about me. And I think she did this because I was their visiting artist. And so she starts singing whole verses of the blues about me. And I can't even remember what it was, but it was just, it was absolutely spectacular. And I'm sure I was just pure red in the face the whole time. But that was another really just amazing one that I just thought I'd throw in here. And next to last, we have another one from a house party. So this one, I'm playing a grand piano, and so it's on the ground floor of this house. It's a nice house. It's multi-story, and they have this sort of open part with this sort of deck on the second floor. And so above me is this string quartet. And so it was supposed to be that the string quartet and I would sort of trade off on tunes. And so I'd play something and then the string quartet would do something. So about, I'd say, halfway through this gig, and it was, kind of long. It was probably a 3-hour set, but, between the both of us. And so I will never forget, in about the middle of the set, just all coordination is totally lost. And so I'm playing a ballad, and I think this is probably why this happened. But I'm playing a nice slow ballad, and I think the string quartet thought I was finished in the middle of the tune, like in the middle of my solo. And so then the string quartet starts playing their Brahms or Beethoven or whatever they were playing, and I was just still in the middle of my solo. I don't know if they got impatient or if they just didn't know where the end of my tune was, and I don't know. And so I just remember stopping, just to allow the string quartet to start playing and do their thing. But I just remember dying laughing. I mean, it was just so ridiculous. And that was also the same gig where they had caterers serving food, and out of my own idiocy, I spilled an entire plate of food on the carpet. So that was another just sort of awful moment there. All right, so this last one is absolutely unreal, and just, it was actually quite frightening in the moment, but just I'm reflecting back on it. And so this was, gosh, probably in 2018, 2019, and I was playing at a protest. And so this was one of these occasions where they had live music acts at this protest. It was actually kind of strange. And so I was playing with a trombonist, and we had a rhythm section. And so I was playing piano, and I was at the very front of the stage. They had a whole stage area, and they were, I think having these music acts in between the, chanting of the, protest, or I can't even really remember how it worked. It was actually quite strange. But anyway, so this protest actually turned violent in the middle of our set, and so we were playing, I think, an hour-long set, and as we were playing, or I think this may have been in the middle of two tunes. You know, things got violent near the stage, and so we all had to evacuate the stage. We left the stage, abandoned all of our gear, and we actually had to walk probably 3 or 4 blocks. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous. And so I think when the police, you know, actually finally got control over this crowd, then we were able to return and finish our set. We actually ended up finishing our set, and then all was sort of uneventful from there. But that was quite frightening in the moment, but just an absolutely wild one to throw into the end of this video. So these are 6 of the strangest gigs I have ever had. And if you have had any strange ones like this that you'd like to share, please leave that in the comments. I'm sure as I think of more, I will have probably another video of this, I'm sure, in the future. But I hope you enjoyed this quick one here, and look forward to more next week. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel, share this video, and do all of that.